Welcome to the Paranormal Bible Podcast.
Yes, welcome.
This week, get ready for a chilling paranormal probe
Oh, yes.
into two unsettling tales from the shadowy corners of flash fiction.
Ooh, spooky.
So get ready for a roller coaster of weird tales, ghost stories,
I love a good ghost story.
spirits, and strange events, all served up with a blockbuster horror movie vibe.
You can't beat it.
You sent us two really interesting pieces this time,
Yes, very interesting.
focusing on some classic horror themes with a bit of a twist.
A twist. I love that.
Let's dive right into the first one, shall we?
Let's.
It's called The Portrait of Madame Seraphine.
An intriguing title. It immediately conjures up a gothic atmosphere, wouldn't you say?
Oh, definitely.
So we're looking at a narrative centered around a bewitched portrait
Right.
with a rather terrifying secret. A painting that ages in real time,
Yeah.
while its subject, the alluring Madame Seraphine, remains eternally young.
It's a classic kind of deal with the devil story, isn't it?
It is.
But what struck you most about that central idea?
Well, I think the sheer wrongness of it, to be honest.
Oh, wait.
Paintings are supposed to capture a moment in time, freeze time.
Absolutely.
But this one is doing the opposite. It's evolving.
Yeah.
And the idea of someone staying young while their painted image decays,
Mm-hmm.
it speaks to a very human fear of mortality, don't you think?
Oh, for sure. Like, trying to cheat death always comes with a price.
Exactly.
And our way into this story is through Beatrice,
Beatrice.
a self-proclaimed woman of science and reason.
She sounds like a skeptic.
Oh, absolutely.
Hmm.
She even has this great line, "Leave dusty superstitions to the credulous, Elias. The world has mysteries enough without inventing more." Famous last words, yes.
Oh, yes, very much so.
Yeah.
Especially considering she then witnesses this impossible event in Elias Blackwood's antique shop.
Yeah, poor Beatrice. Why do you think the author chose this particular type of character as our sort of initial observer?
Well, I think it makes the impossible feel even more impactful.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if someone who already believed in ghosts saw a painting age, you might just shrug it off.
Right.
But for Beatrice, it completely shatters her understanding of reality.
Well, that's why we love horror, isn't it? Shattering reality.
Exactly. Now, tell me about Elias Blackwood, the antique shop owner. What's he like?
He's quite a character. Lanky, always covered in ink, messy hair, those big glasses.
Hmm.
You know the type. The kind of person who talks about vibrations and auras.
I could picture him perfectly.
You can totally picture his shop, too, filled with all sorts of oddities and curiosities.
Right.
Beatrice usually just tolerates his eccentricities because he has such a fascinating collection.
Well, he certainly fits the archetype of someone who is more attuned to the unseen world,
Mm-hmm.
right? A necessary counterpoint to Beatrice's scientific approach.
Oh, yeah. Their dynamic, their back and forth is pretty crucial for navigating the mysteries ahead.
Absolutely. Did any particular detail about the portrait itself stand out to you initially?
Oh, absolutely. It's Madame Seraphine's eyes.
The eyes, yes, classic.
They're described as having this unsettling depth, like she's actually watching you, observing the room, as if she were a living being.
That's creepy.
It's that feeling of being scrutinized by an inanimate object that is so deeply unsettling.
Ugh, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's that feeling of being watched, of not being alone, especially when you expect to be.
Mm-hmm.
Blurs the lines between object and a potential consciousness.
Yeah.
And even Elias, who's surrounded by strange objects every day, is clearly disturbed by what's happening to this portrait.
Oh, absolutely. He's jittery, noticing all these subtle changes in the paint, like it's cracking from within, he says.
I mean, it's not some dramatic change at first, but these small, almost imperceptible shifts that build this incredible sense of unease.
Totally. It's like the painting itself is undergoing some kind of internal decay.
Right. And Beatrice, despite her skepticism, can't deny what she's seeing.
Not at all. A slight sag in the cheek, faint crow's feet. She even feels this sense of age emanating from the canvas.
That's a very visceral reaction. It suggests a tangible connection to the aging process, like the painting is radiating some form of temporal energy.
Oh, for sure. And that's when Elias really starts to panic. He says, it's wrong, fundamentally wrong. A painting is frozen in time, a record. It shouldn't evolve.
That quote really hits at the core of why this is so disturbing. It defies the very nature of art, the idea that it captures and preserves a specific moment.
Right.
For a change to age It's like the laws of physics are being bent.
Oh, yeah. And then the atmosphere shifts, right? There's this buzzing pressure, a sudden coldness. Elias physically recoils.
Classic signs. Sensory details, the buzzing, the pressure, the cold, classic indicators of a supernatural presence. And then Beatrice witnesses that wisp of darkness, like smokeless fire, leaving the portrait and dissipating.
Elias even says, he whispers, that wasn't supposed to happen.
It's the point of no return, the undeniable proof that something truly inexplicable is occurring. And suddenly, the antique shop transforms into something sinister, almost tomb-like. You know, that feeling of something ancient and dangerous lurking.
Even Beatrice, the woman of science, is shaken to her core. She asks Elias, what do we do?
The transformation of a familiar setting into something menacing is a hallmark of horror.
It is.
It undermines their sense of safety and just amplifies that feeling of dread. And in response, Elias doesn't turn to scientific explanations, does he?
He does not.
He turns to folklore and legend. He talks about portraits imbued with unintended power, a clear indication that they've entered the realm of the supernatural.
So his immediate thought is research, to look into the history of such phenomena.
Of course. For Beatrice, the idea of researching the supernatural is almost laughable, but the mystery is undeniably alluring. She says, very well, tell me about Madame Seraphine, and may the gods of academia forgive us both. I love that.
Yeah, it's great.
That blend of disbelief and burgeoning curiosity, it's so relatable, even in the face of the bizarre. And so they retreat to Elias's apartment.
Which, from the sounds of it, is a wonderfully chaotic space filled with occult books and ancient documents.
But it certainly paints a picture, doesn't it? Their normal, ordered lives completely upended by this impossible event, and now they're surrounded by the tools of forgotten knowledge. As Elias starts to reveal Madame Seraphine's history, it becomes clear she was no ordinary woman. There are rumors of alchemy, consorting with spirits, and darker rumors of pacts for eternal youth.
Right, and he emphasizes the word purchased, which has so many implications.
Exactly. The introduction of these rumors adds depth to Seraphine's character. The idea that her youth was purchased hints at a transaction with potentially sinister forces.
Oh, totally. And Beatrice, always the pragmatist, she asks the key question, why is this happening now, after centuries?
Right, you'd think any magical effect would have, stabilized by now.
Elias's answer that the spell might be unraveling or the entity is growing restless is incredibly unsettling.
It is, and what's even creepier is Elias's own connection to all this. He's having these disturbing dreams about an old woman with a cracked face, whispering promises. He believes Seraphine senses his sensitivity to the supernatural and is trying to draw him in.
Elias's sensitivity makes him a vulnerable target, a potential conduit for Seraphine's influence. The dreams serve as a direct and insidious form of attack. Beatrice, trying to maintain a foothold in reality, asks about the actual threat if this spirit is bound to the painting. And Elias's explanation of Seraphine's, manipulative and power-hungry nature paints a very terrifying picture of what might happen if she were to break free.
So the next logical question then is, how do we stop her?
Right. How do you stop something like that?
Elias talks about containment, severing the link, and then he mentions rituals.
Which I imagine alarms Beatrice. Oh, absolutely. She even says, Elias, I draw the line at goat sacrifices.
A little bit of dark humor. I appreciate that.
It's needed sometimes, right?
It is, absolutely. So Elias assures her of a less sanguinary approach, thankfully. Fast forward a week, and Elias's apartment sounds like a scene from a horror movie.
Oh, absolutely. You've got rock salt circles, chalk symbols, the smell of burnt sage and ozone.
A full-blown paranormal lockdown.
Exactly. Elias declares they're ready, and Beatrice is, she's dismayed at the use of the word we because she clearly hadn't envisioned herself as an active participant in any of this.
Right. And then Elias's unsettling grin when he explains that he needs her as a conduit for energy.
Yeah.
That's never a good sign.
No, not at all.
It raises the stakes considerably. I mean, her worry about possession is, it's totally natural. And Elias's somewhat manic reassurance that Seraphine already has hooks in him is hardly comforting.
Right. And he tries to, lighten the mood by calling it an unconventional performance with remarkably high stakes.
Classic gallows humor.
So the scene is set for the confrontation. The heavy humming air, the pulsing portrait within the salt circle, its painted features all distorted, eyes burning.
It's like the room itself is holding its breath.
Beatrice is the anchor, right. drawing forth the entity while Elias performs the binding ritual.
So as Elias begins chanting, the energy intensifies, and Beatrice feels that seductive whisper, the entity trying to worm its way into her mind. It's a battle for control, a struggle against a powerful unseen force.
Elias, sensing her struggle, shouts, "Focus!" And remembering the portrait's aging, Elias's nightmares, Beatrice finds this surge of anger, this defiance.
That's a turning point. Beatrice's anger fuels her will to fight back. She's no longer a reluctant participant. The sudden drop in temperature, the swirling shadows, the vibrating portrait, the intensity is clearly escalating. And that horrifying mask of hunger on the woman's face in the painting, that's pure nightmare fuel.
It is, and then the power surges through Beatrice, the entity lashing out with centuries of fury, bombarding her mind with all this negative emotion.
A psychic attack. Beatrice is not just fighting against a physical force, but against centuries of accumulated pain and rage.
Elias's booming voice cuts through, and he completes the incantation with the glowing amulet.
The pressure redoubles. A vortex of darkness and freezing energy fills the room. Beatrice she's clearly pushed to her absolute limit.
But in that moment of desperation, Beatrice doesn't just resist. She actively pushes back with sheer willpower, asserting her identity. She was Beatrice Dubois, and she would not be erased.
The assertion of self is key here. It signifies her refusal to be overwhelmed or consumed by the entity's influence. And then the abrupt cessation, the silent scream from the portrait, and then silence.
It's over.
Elias slumps against the wall, completely drained, just uttering, It worked.
And Beatrice, equally astonished, agrees. She says, "It seems we are in the rather dubious position of having exercised a painting."
That dry wit returning after such a harrowing ordeal, I love that.
Yeah, it's definitely needed. They have a quiet conversation over wine afterwards, and Elias marvels at Beatrice's strength. He recognizes that she actively fought back.
It's clear their dynamic has shifted. It's no longer just the skeptical academic and the eccentric shop owner. They've faced something terrifying together, and they've emerged victorious. Beatrice even admits that she now understands Elias's sensitivity, and Elias expresses gratitude for not having to carry the burden alone.
It's the start of an unexpected partnership.
It is. Their toast to the world's shadows, it's an acknowledgement of this reality they both now inhabit. But as is often the case in these kinds of tales, the peace doesn't last.
No, it never does. It starts with small disturbances, misplaced books, chills, faint whispers. Elias recognizes these signs. Seraphine is testing the boundaries, seeking a new way out.
It's like a predator probing its cage, looking for any weakness. And Elias has a theory that it might not be the portrait again, that Seraphine has become diffused, looking for a new anchor. And then Beatrice starts to feel it too, A sense of menace hanging over the city. Her senses feel heightened.
And then the news comes in, a dead art dealer, and the discovery of a new portrait, a portrait of a strikingly beautiful young woman.
Oh no.
Elias whispers, horrified, "She's begun again, found a new host, a new tether to this world."
It's a confirmation of their worst fears. And their apartment transforms back into a war room. But this time the energy is even more desperate. Their enemy is growing stronger, and they need to find a way to stop her before she becomes unstoppable.
They're running out of time. Elias is determined to stop her before she regains her full strength. Beatrice, looking at all their research, feels a sense of despair. How do they possibly combat something like this? And then, a sudden realization, the aging she saw on the portrait. It's transferred to Elias.
The transfer of the aging curse.
Yeah.
It's a new vulnerability.
Yeah. A cruel bargain, he calls it, but perhaps their only hope.
Their new plan, Elias as bait, Beatrice invoking a transference right. It's a very desperate gamble. They're going to let Seraphine take what's left of Elias's youth and then attempt to bind her to him entirely.
It all comes down to a confrontation in an art gallery, of all places.
Oh, interesting.
Surrounded by all those other artworks, giving it this really eerie atmosphere. Seraphine senses Elias through her new host, That hunger in her painted eyes now felt through the art dealer. It's a very unsettling image.
The gallery setting amplifies the themes of art and illusion, the blurring of the lines between the living and the inanimate.
Right.
And Seraphine's hissing demand for her youth and Elias's defiant reply set the stage for this final desperate battle.
Yeah.
And with that terrible transformation beginning, it's quite the cliffhanger.
It is. But you know what? I think it's time we move on to our second paranormal probe, Whispers from the Abyss.
Okay, let's do it.
This flash fiction story brings back Elias Blackwood, but in a very different context.
Different how?
This time, he's a reclusive prodigy in ancient languages
Oh, interesting.
who is haunted by these terrifying nightmares of a yawning pit and whispering voices.
So this narrative shifts the focus from a tangible, haunted object to a more internal psychological source of horror.
At least initially, yes. Elias's expertise in languages becomes really central to unraveling the mystery. What were your first impressions of this story's setup?
Well, it immediately felt more cosmic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, less about a specific ghost, and more about something ancient, vast, unknowable.
Right, right. And when this mysterious benefactor funds Elias's research, leading him to his ancestral home, it initially seems like a lucky break.
But of course, there's always a catch, right?
But then, the disturbing discovery that his nightmares are real, a well on the property that actually speaks in a language only he understands, turns that fortune on its head.
The well acting as a physical manifestation of his nightmares. I mean, that's classic psychological horror.
And to provide a grounded perspective, the story introduces Dr. Isabel Grant, Elias's doctoral student, who is definitely the voice of scientific reason in all this.
A healthy dose of skepticism. I like her already.
She is initially very skeptical of this moss-covered stone circle on the estate. "Tell me again," she says, "why are we traipsing through the estate's overgrown back garden for a crumbling pile of rocks?"
I mean, I can hear the eye roll in her voice.
Oh, totally. Of course, Elias is thrilled by it. He's calling it this ancient ritual site, going on and on about the standing stones.
So the dynamic between them, the believer and the skeptic, is immediately engaging, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. It's a classic pairing in these sorts of stories, right?
It is. So Elias gets particularly excited about the carvings on these megaliths.
Mm-hmm.
He says they don't match any known runes, describing them as almost rhythmic, not quite language, more like instructions.
Very mysterious.
Very mysterious. And Isabel, she provides the skeptical counterpoint.
As she should.
But Elias insists that she observed the patterns. He seems to perceive something significant beyond just, mere artistic flourishes.
To her credit, Isabel does examine them. She even starts to feel uneasy. She describes them as having a mechanical quality.
Mechanical quality. That's an unusual way to describe ancient carvings.
It is, and it hints at a purpose beyond decoration, beyond storytelling.
Interesting. So then Isabel discovers that dizzying spiral, that yawning vortex of inhuman script. I mean, that image alone sends shivers down your spine.
Oh, yeah. And her realization, Elias, there's something, it's a complete shift from her earlier dismissal.
The rational facade is starting to crack.
And Elias's soft, knowing reply, "It whispers, doesn't it?" confirms his connection to this unsettling phenomenon. He already understands what she's starting to experience.
So Isabel asks, "What on earth is this place?" And Elias, with a mix of elation and I'd say a little trepidation, replies, "This is where my work truly begins."
And from there, they move on to Blackwood Manor itself, which sounds like your classic Gothic setting.
Yeah.
Stern, oppressive. Isabel even quips, cheerful place, isn't it? But Elias has this unsettling fondness for it.
Like he's drawn to the darkness.
Exactly. Then they encounter Jonah Crow.
Who's that?
He's a local, I guess you could say a caretaker of sorts.
Okay.
A striking figure with his Stetson and these storm cloud eyes. His initial words are, "Rumors aren't knowledge, boy. They're the ramblings of drunkards and bored spinsters." Very gruff, very skeptical.
Well, he seems like a grounded presence, someone who's probably heard all the stories and rumors surrounding the Blackwood family.
Right. And when Elias mentions that he found Jonah's name in his grandfather's notes about renovations, Jonah's correction, "Remodeling is a generous term for what that old fool had me do," hints at a troubled past.
Okay, interesting. So there's some history there.
Oh, yeah. And the decaying state of the manor, the heavy atmosphere, all adds to this sense of, a troubled history, a place burdened by secrets.
Right, and then Jonah asks Elias about his bizarre story, right?
He does, yeah. And Elias shows him this yellowed parchment describing a hidden sanctuary.
A hidden sanctuary. That sounds ominous.
But Jonah interrupts him. "Don't use that word. Sacrifices, not prayers, happen down there."
Yikes. Isabel probably gives Elias one of those "I told you so"
winks. Totally. Jonah then says to Elias, "Old bastard never did tell you everything, did he?"
So Elias's grandfather was deliberately keeping secrets. Dangerous ones.
And Jonah gives his grim assessment of the mansion. "More curse than blessing," he calls it.
Well, that's not reassuring.
And despite all the warnings, Elias insists on seeing the chamber, leading to Jonah's ominous warning, "You'll wish you hadn't."
And I bet they do. So tell me what happens when they finally find the chamber. What's it like?
It's a circular room with a well in the center. Not just a normal well, though. It's the smooth, black stone shaft with a rim covered in terrifying symbols. The story describes it as throbbing with malevolence.
So the well is a physical manifestation of this ancient evil.
Jonah warns Elias about his grandfather, saying he was playing with forces beyond any fool's understanding. But Elias, despite the warnings, is drawn to the well. He starts hearing whispers, this seductive melody with this undercurrent of doom.
It sounds like the abyss itself is calling to him, trying to lure him in. And Isabel, she makes this strained observation that the whole manor is a conduit, reaching out to whatever thing lies below.
They're trapped in this increasingly malevolent manner. The atmosphere is suffocating, shadows seem to be alive, the house itself feels sentient, and the nightmares are just relentless.
It's a classic haunted house scenario amplified by this ancient cosmic threat. And then Isabel starts to lose her grip on reality.
Yeah, she realizes that the manor is influencing them, poisoning their perceptions, turning the familiar into something terrifying.
And Elias, meanwhile, is becoming consumed by his obsession with convinced it's a seal and that the carvings are weakening it. He's in a desperate race against time.
And then the abyss starts communicating with him directly, these whispers promising him knowledge, telling him about a countdown to some kind of cataclysm. Isabel begs him to stop. She's afraid he's going to be consumed by this obsession, but he believes that he's the only one who can prevent the disaster.
The classic hero's dilemma.
And then Jonah finds Elias in the conservatory.
What's he doing?
He's surrounded by these overgrown vines that have this eerie luminescence, and he's chanting in front of the well, chanting in an incomprehensible language.
Oh, no.
Isabel tries to pull him away, but the vines react defensively, coiling around her. And then Elias, with a sharp command, stops the vines.
So he's gained some kind of control over the vines. Or maybe the abyss is controlling him.
It's unclear, but then Jonah realizes what's happening, and he's horrified. He realizes that Elias isn't breaking the seal, he's strengthening it.
The entity has manipulated him. Oh, this is bad. This is really bad.
A roar shatters the stillness. The manor groans. A surge of power throws Elias back. But he keeps chanting the words fractured and desperate. He says, "Can't hold it. Too strong. Losing."
It sounds like he's losing control. He can't contain the power he's unleashed.
And then they hear footsteps. Someone or something is approaching.
This can't be good.
This robed figure emerges from the shadows, a silhouette of impossible darkness. And in this dismissive voice, it says, "Disappointing. Such potential, twisted and wasted."
This entity embodies the raw, indifferent power of the abyss.
Jonah tries to grab a weapon, but the figure just gestures and the vines wither. Elias, spitting blood, defiantly tells the figure, "Knowledge isn't I gift, it's a choice. And I choose not yours."
Elias's defiance, even in the face of certain destruction. It's remarkable.
He shifts the rhythm of his chant, rejecting oblivion. The robed figure makes this Asian gesture and says, "Futile." Elias smiles, blood staining his teeth, and says, "Let's find out together." And then he lunges into the abyss.
Oh, I don't know.
There's a monstrous roar, a blinding flash of light, and then silence.
What happens next?
They're back in the conservatory.
Just like that.
The vines are dead. The well is inert. There's no trace of Elias or the figure.
So it's over. Did he succeed?
It's hard to say. Jonah mutters, "That Blackwood stubbornness runs in the blood, I suppose." And then Isabel finds Elias's satchel. Inside is a message. "The abyss is not an ending. It is merely a door. It is locked now. Keep watch for me should I ever find the key to return."
So there's a glimmer of hope. Maybe Elias is still out there somewhere.
Maybe. They leave the ruined manor, stepping out into a world that feels somehow altered. And as they walk away, they hear a chilling whisper on the wind. "And though I walk through the valley of the shadow, I shall fear no evil, for I am the baddest thing in the valley."
That's quite the ending. Both of these flash fiction stories offer such different yet equally unsettling glimpses into the unknown, the bewitched portrait, the insidious spirit of Madame Seraphine. It makes you wonder about the hidden histories of seemingly ordinary objects, you know?
Yeah.
And the whispers from the abyss, Elias Blackwood's desperate sacrifice. Was it truly the end? Or just a temporary sealing of something far older and more terrifying than we can imagine?
It's a lot to think about. What are your final thoughts?
Well, I think these stories resonate because they tap into our fundamental fears. The fear of aging and death, the fear of the unknown, the fear of forces beyond our control, and the ideas that a seemingly harmless antique could harbor a malevolent entity or that an ancient power lies dormant beneath the surface of our world. I mean, those are pretty unsettling possibilities.
They are, and they stay with you long after the story is over.
Absolutely.
I think it's time we wrap up for this week, though.
Okay.
But before we go, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Which of these paranormal probes resonated with you the most, and why?
There's a whole world of folklore, literature, and even anecdotal accounts that explore these themes. What other tales echo the unsettling events of Madame Seraphine and the whispers from the abyss? Let us know.
Yes, please do.
We love to hear from you.
Thank you for joining us on this paranormal probe.
Yes, thanks for listening.
Rate and follow the Paranormal Bible Podcast
Please do.
for more captivating journeys into the strange and uncanny. Until next time, keep your eyes open and your mind questioning.
And your salt circles close.
And your salt circles close.
Bye for now.
Bye.